Before we get started with this podcast, I just want to say a big shout out to today's sponsor, 730. 730 is a young solo musician from Worcestershire whose latest single, Can't Lie, just dropped. It's available to listen to pretty much anywhere, but probably the best place to check it out is on his Spotify page. Give it a like, give it a subscribe, share it, do what you can. Thanks again, 730. Hello everyone, welcome back to Harry's Half Hour. My name's Harry Dowling, and this is my little spin-off show where I talk about some of the this week's biggest news stories in the world of film, television, video games, that sort of thing. I've got some pretty good stories for you today, actually. There was quite a bit happened this week. Little disclaimer first, though. I'm actually having to record this quite a bit earlier than I usually do, so apologies if you hear any sort of car noises or anything like that. I do live on quite a busy road. I'm trying to sort of dampen the sound as much as possible, but a bit might get through. Also, the weather in the UK has been pretty bad the last few days. We are in autumn now, and it's just raining all the time. So I've tried to record this sort of in between the crazy downpours. So hopefully it doesn't start absolutely chucking it down again and I don't have to stop recording, basically, because I couldn't record with that going on. I've got a conservatory, and anyone with a conservatory will know that when it starts raining, it gets crazy loud. So hopefully not. It's been a pretty mad week, actually, in the UK. We've got a gas or petrol shortage, and it's meaning that a lot of people can't get to work. Obviously, this isn't anything to do with film or anything like that, but I just thought I'd throw it out there. Like, a lot of people are getting stuck. Traffic is mad because everyone is panic buying as much petrol as they can. It's crazy. So hopefully you're all doing okay. You're all able to get to work and not getting stuck, as we almost did. The first story today actually came out the very end of last week. It's massive news for anybody who is a fan of the band The Red Hot Chili Peppers. Anybody who knows me will know that they are literally my favourite band. I've been to see them a couple of times, and a couple of years back, wow, it's weird to say that. Yeah, a couple of years back, they announced that John Frusciante, the guitarist that everybody knows from that band, rejoined, and they announced that they would be making music again, but it's been silent ever since. And anyway, on their Twitter page, I think it was like last Friday, they put a big sort of spoof news report video out where they announced that they would be doing a world tour starting July 2022. Now, this is huge news. We are waiting for an album, but it means we're going to get an album, probably before this world tour, otherwise why sort of would they be touring? But yeah, it's just massive news, and I'm so happy to hear it. It's going to be very expensive. Every time I've been to see him in the past, it's usually gone up by like £20 a time. So I'm expecting it to be like maybe £80 a ticket, which is a lot, but I never got to see them, before 2007 when John Frusciante was part of the band. So I'm so down for it. If you haven't seen that video, I do recommend going to their Twitter page and watching it. I think it's probably on their Facebook now as well, but it's absolutely hilarious. They do like this funny spoof where they're all playing funny news reporters. The funniest one has got to be Chad Smith, the drummer, who plays a character called Randy Raindrops, who is a really soft-spoken weatherman. It's just hilarious. But I thought I'd start this episode with that massive bombshell that there's going to be a new Chili Pepper world tour. In other music news this week, there was a pretty big story, actually. It's been going on for a long time, but sort of R&B star, singer, whatever you want to call him, R. Kelly, has been convicted on 9 counts. There's a big documentary about him. I think it's on Netflix called Surviving R. Kelly. If anyone hasn't seen that, you should check that out. I know everyone used to love him, like back in the day. He did that track, I Believe I Can Fly. I think that was him, 1996, I think. Everybody loved him, and nobody really knew, apart from, the people he'd abused and stuff, but nobody really knew what an absolute monster the man was. Anyway, I'm not going to get too far into it because you could talk about this subject for like an hour. But yeah, he's been charged on 9 counts, including just multiple cases of abuse against women, children, boys, just really nasty stuff. As I say, I'm not going to get too far into it, but I think one of the things he was also accused of, or has been convicted, is like a sex trafficking ring that's been going on for like the past 30 years or something. So the question is now is why has it taken 30 years for this monster to be, convicted? We don't know how long he's going to get yet. He's looking at least 20 years. I think I read somewhere that he's going to be sentenced early next month, I think. But yeah, big news. A lot of people are really happy that, justice is finally getting served all these years later. A pretty hilarious news story this week involving one of my favourite actors who constantly keeps popping up in this podcast is Nick Cage. I don't know if anybody saw it, but this week Nick Cage was filmed absolutely smashed drunk in a really swanky Las Vegas restaurant. A few people there were having their dinner, and in strolls Nick Cage absolutely off his head. I've seen the video. He sits down, takes his shoes off, and they're the staff are trying to get him up, trying to get him to leave. He starts shouting that he can't find his shoes. They give him his shoes, and then they're trying to pick him up and sort of slowly walk him out the door. And he tries to come back in and stuff. It's absolutely hilarious. I mean, Nick Cage, absolutely legend of an actor, does have a bit of a reputation for going off the rails in real life and also in his films. I don't know if it happens in his films because it's sort of happened in real life so much, but just imagine that. Imagine being sat in a restaurant, having a nice dinner, and none other than Nicolas Cage walks in absolutely smashed. I think that would just be so funny to be around. And hilarious. I'd love to party with that guy. I think he would just be, off the rails. You'd have one of the best nights of your life if you partied with an absolutely smashed Nicolas Cage. But yeah, hilarious news story this week. You should definitely check out the video. I don't know where I saw it. It's probably on the Mirror online or something. But I'm pretty sure if you Google drunk Nicolas Cage Las Vegas, it'll probably come up with quite a lot of different videos, to be fair, but look for the most recent date. Watch the video, it's funny, it's really good. We had a few new movie releases this week. One of the biggest ones that I've actually been waiting for a really long time was that new film called The Green Knight. Now, I don't really know too much about this. I saw it yesterday, but I didn't know too much about it, other than it's sort of like a modern reimagining, although I guess you can't really call it modern, reimagining of a classic sort of Knights of the Round Table type story. The film stars Dev Patel, who has been in a lot of really great things. He's a really good actor, to be honest. I saw him in Chappie. He was absolutely fantastic in that. It's one of me and Fiona's favourite sci-fi films. If you haven't seen that, check that out. Directed by Neil Blomkamp. Well worth watching. His CG is just so good. But it stars Dev Patel. It also stars Alicia Vikander. And it's just very weird. It's so hard to explain. It's almost like set in medieval times, and Dev Patel plays a guy called Gawain, who is the nephew to the king, and he is challenged by the Green Knight, who is this man made of sticks and trees and stuff like that. He's challenged to a little game, and I won't go into it too much. I don't want to spoil anything. Really, what you need to do is you need to get yourself on Amazon Prime, where this film is, and just watch it and just take it in, and drop an email to dudewhatpodcast@gmail.com and let me know what you thought of it. Please do, because I just thought it was so strange and weird, but I loved it. Speaking of Dude What Podcast, actually, I really hope that you'll enjoy... Wow, I just said y'all, like I'm from down south. I really hope y'all enjoyed it. I really hope you all enjoyed the last episode of Dude What Podcast. It was a bit different for us, and it was kind of a little bit tricky to try and do. If you haven't listened to it and you're listening to this, which is a bit weird, but then also kind of cool. If you haven't listened to it, we covered our first video game on the podcast. We played a couple of Royal Rumbles on WWE SmackDown vs. Raw 2008. An absolutely classic game from our youth. But yeah, not to go on about that too much, you should listen to that episode. It came out Tuesday this week. So I guess I can talk about it on this actually, because it was like a release this week. It was a new release. Listen to Dude What Podcast, everybody. But yeah, check us out on Instagram. You can put a little message on there of what you thought of the Dark Knight, of what you thought of the Green Knight. Just very, very strange. Some more news that came out, actually I think it came out today, is that the Star Wars spin-off series, which seems like that's all they're sort of doing at the moment, is all these various spin-offs based on Star Wars properties. But the Star Wars spin-off series called The Book of Boba Fett has finally been given a release date, and that date is December 29th. I don't know if any of you have seen the most recent season of The Mandalorian. If you haven't, and you're not really that into Star Wars, I do recommend watching that show, actually, because it's not so much space, laser swords and flips and stuff like that. It's much more of like a space western based around a character who doesn't really say a whole lot. Almost like a witchery sort of thing, where he's like looking after just a young kid. And that kid being Baby Yoda, which you've definitely seen. He's literally everywhere. But in the second season, fan favourite character Boba Fett returned. And it was sort of like a big moment for Star Wars fans, because nobody's seen him since episode 5, I think. I probably got it wrong. I'm probably going to get a load of hate for getting that wrong. But since episode 5 or 6, where Boba Fett gets basically knocked into the Sarlacc pit. He's sort of bigged up as being the best and the baddest bounty hunter, but he does nothing other than sort of get kicked in the back. His jetpack malfunctions and he falls into the Sarlacc pit to his death, which what everyone thought for like years. But he is revealed to be alive. He's played by actor Temuera Morrison, who played Jango Fett, who is... It's a complicated storyline, but basically who is a clone. In the Clone Wars... No, not the Clone Wars. He's probably in the Clone Wars, actually, but Attack of the Clones, Star Wars Episode 2, he sort of appeared in that, and he's reprising the role, this time, of Boba Fett. And he pops up in that, and he's sort of like a... It's quite cool, actually, because he's got a bit of a beer gut, and his armor's damaged and stuff. But anyway, he appears in that, and he will be reprising the role, playing the lead role in the new Disney series, The Book of Boba Fett, which sort of... I don't really know too much about it, other than I think he's going to be like the big kingpin of Tatooine, one of the sort of desert planets, the one that everyone's heard of, basically. So yeah, check that out. As I said, if you haven't seen The Mandalorian, you're probably definitely going to want to watch that before you watch The Book of Boba Fett, otherwise it's not going to make a whole lot of sense to you. The biggest news this week, although I've spoken about it before actually on episode 1, is that the new James Bond film titled No Time to Die is finally released. Now in episode 1 I did sort of talk about it a bit more, and I mentioned about how they've been trying to release this thing for like the last 2 years now. And every time they went to release it, they just couldn't, and it had to get pushed back, and thousands, if not millions of pounds and dollars or whatever, has been spent on marketing this film, because they kept marketing it and then pulling it and then doing it again, spending loads on it and then pulling it. But anyway, they've just sort of said, you know what, who cares, let's put it out. They've put it out, it came out today, and it's actually coming out to pretty good reviews, which is great news, because I think a lot of people were worried that after all this, it was going to come out and it was going to be pretty shit. But yeah, luckily, it's supposed to be really good. I've got my tickets booked. Saturday morning, I'm going to the giant screen IMAX to watch it. Pretty pumped, as I'm sure you know, I really love those Bond films. I'm a big fan of the Roger Moore Bond films, but this is going to be the last one for Daniel Craig. We mentioned in episode 1 that they're obviously going to recast Bond, and they're going to cast him. They're going to cast somebody. So we obviously don't know. Although I actually have a sneaky suspicion that they probably have spoken to the actor who is going to be playing Bond way back when. Probably back when this film was in like post-production. So I reckon somebody out there knows that they're going to be the next James Bond, and they are being so tight-lipped, keeping the secret so well. Like, imagine that. Imagine if you were told that you were going to be the next James Bond and that you could announce it, and then you were told, whoa, this pandemic has hit, you can't say it now, and then having to sit on that information for like 2 years. Damn, that would take some skill not to spill those beans, don't you think? So yeah, I'm pretty pumped for this film. I don't really like the theme song. Billie Eilish, not a big fan. I know that's probably, well, not controversial, but I'm probably in the minority because like everybody loves Billie Eilish, it seems. Although actually, I think she has sort of gone like downhill a little bit in popularity. I haven't heard any of her tracks apart from this No Time to Die song she's done on the radio in a little while. And I know she had an album out not too long ago, so yeah, don't know what I think of that. Well, I do. I'm not a big fan of the track. The trailers for the film make it look really good. So yeah, I'm definitely pumped for that one. No Time to Die came out today. I can't even remember what the date is. September 30th. Came out today. Book your tickets. Check it out. Let me know what you think, but don't do it until after tomorrow night, because I don't want any spoilers, everybody. And please don't spoil it for anybody else. Don't post, spoilers on the Instagram or anything like that, because if you do, we'll have to just take it down. Only joking, nobody posts on the Instagram. In other news this week, wow, that sounded really like news reporter, didn't it? In other news this week, I think I need to work on that a little bit. In other news this week, Helena Bonham Carter, classic actress, has announced that she is returning for Enola Holmes 2. If you haven't seen Enola Holmes, again, it's another Netflix one, you should check it out. Now, I was pretty late to actually to watching this film. I thought that it would be just sort of another like teen drama-y thing. It stars Millie Bobby Brown, who obviously Stranger Things fame, but you should really check it out. It's about as this you might guess from the name, it's about sort of Sherlock Holmes's younger sister, who is obviously she's just as sort of good, but as Sherlock in deducing things, but it's more of like an adventure sort of film than I thought it would be, which is why I loved it, because I love these adventure films. But yeah, check out Enola Holmes. I think Helena Bonham Carter, if I remember right, played the mother of Enola, Sherlock, and what's his name now? The older brother? I cannot remember at all. But oh yeah, Sherlock Holmes was played by Henry Cavill in that movie, which is another reason I was like, yeah, I'll watch it, because Henry Cavill, for me, is one of these actors that is just going from strength to strength. He was pretty badass in Mission Impossible 6 Fallout. If you haven't seen that, check that out. There's some absolutely fantastic stunt work, some great shots, and he plays a really good villain, sort of henchman in that. But yeah, he played Sherlock Holmes in this. He was great in this. He was great in The Witcher as well. I know I've mentioned that just in this podcast, but he was great in The Witcher. Then season 2 of that's coming out soon. But yeah, it's sort of like a mystery, adventure, crime, fun film. A very fun film. It's one of those films where it breaks the fourth wall a lot. Like, she'll be saying something to somebody, you know, like she'll be doing like some smart quip to a bad guy, and then she'll turn and look at the camera and be like, oh, you know, I thought that was the case or something. And the bad guy will be like, hey, what are you saying? And then the music kicks in and she kicks someone in the face or something. It's a fun film, a very fun film. Check it out. Enola Holmes. I see that, actually, a bit of news. I see that my local cinema, which is one of these big IMAX, you know, giant screen things, is actually showing the Lord of the Rings trilogy again. It's like re-showing them, but on this massive screen. Now, the films are like 20-something years old at this point, so it's pretty impossible that, you know, you haven't seen them, or that one hasn't seen these films. But I will say, if you can go and watch it on the giant screen, you should definitely do so. I think they've probably been showing them for a little while now, because when I checked, when I went to book tickets for the latest Bond, I saw that they were showing Return of the King, which is arguably a lot of people's, you know, the most favourite of the Lord of the Rings films, and it's just epic, and I can imagine that it would be absolutely fantastic to watch on the giant screen. So if you have gone to see The Lord of the Rings, any of them, on the giant screen, please send me an email and let me know what you thought, because there's a few scenes that even when I watch it now on my, you know, 55-inch, whatever, 60-inch screen, give me tingles, shivers, you know, like, for example, the Charge of the Rohirrim, when they all the riders of Rohan, when they all charge down the hill towards the battle, just a great scene, and I can imagine that on the giant screen is fantastic. So please let me know if you went to see that. Now, I do have to say, as we come towards the end of this episode, I'm really sorry if this one seems a little rushed, or if I'm a bit all over the place. Basically, as I said at the beginning, I'm recording this at a completely different time, and I haven't given myself as much time as I usually do to sort of prepare for this. One of the reasons why, which is what I'm going to talk about in this week's Dude What with Tomo, that hopefully I'm recording this week, is I started a new job, and it's just taken all my time. I get home sort of earlier, but I'm more exhausted and I can't stay up as late. Usually I stay up really late and record this podcast at like 1 or 2 in the morning when it's dead silent and I'm sort of by myself and I can just focus. I'm having to record this a lot earlier, and yeah, I don't know, I'm just not so much in the zone. But I do have to say, if you are listening to this and you've got this far in the podcast, then thank you for listening. It really makes it worthwhile for me and both Tomo that people are actually listening to it, that people want to listen to us, you know. We originally started this podcast just for ourselves, just for fun, basically as an excuse for us to just hang out and, you know, spend more time together, because we just sort of didn't before we started doing this. I mean, we've always been great friends, but we haven't been hanging out, you know, as much as we do now. And I wanted to make this little podcast because I found that I always keep up to date with sort of movie, music, news, that sort of thing anyway. And I just thought, you know what, like I would love to have a little show or something where I just do a very brief sort of rundown of the news. And I am hoping that in time, you know, as the podcast picks up momentum, which it is doing, that this does become big. And, you know, that more people listen in. So, yeah, big thanks to everyone for listening to this. Well, everyone, I think we've come to the end of another episode of Harry's Half Hour. I really hope you've enjoyed listening to me ramble on and say and so and but like countless times. But yeah, we have come to the end. Please check out Dude What's podcast. Listen to the other episodes, the main podcast. We've got another one coming out on Tuesday. It's Tuesdays and Fridays. Tuesdays for Dude What, Fridays for Harry's Half Hour. I'm not actually sure what we're going to be doing on the next episode, so you're going to have to just come back on Tuesday and check it out. But before I go, I just want to say, make sure that you look after yourself, because it's getting a bit wild out there at the minute. As I said earlier, with all this fuel crisis and things, the roads are manic. There's a lot of sort of anger and stuff like that at the pumps, and just, be kind to each other. Treat people how you'd want to be treated, and, hopefully we'll all get through this whole sort of problem at the minute. Anyway, guys, I've been Harry Dowling. You've been listening to Harry's Half Hour on Dude What Podcast. Take it easy, guys. Peace, one love. Before we finish up today, I just want to give another shout out to today's sponsor, 730. 730 is a young musician based in Worcestershire whose latest single, Can't Lie, just dropped. It's available to listen to pretty much anywhere, but the best place that you could check it out would be on his Spotify page. I'll put a link below. Please like it, share it around, do what you can. Thanks again, 730.